So welcome everyone. My name is Jeff Gallo. I'm a partner with the CPA firm H&Co, which was formerly Brennan Fender here in Orlando. We started a little bit later because I understand there's a massive traffic jam on I-4, and so there may still be folks that are sprinkling in as we go. This organization, CEO Leadership Forums, started back in 2016, and we have a number of very motivated advisors that have chosen to sponsor this organization. From the banks, South State and Valley, right on down, you see everybody there, just wonderful names, but they're all rallied around common interests, and that is education of the business owner community and trying to link the business owner community to Valencia College students. And you'll notice that there are a number of young faces that are in this audience and for a particular purpose. And I'm going to ask Jared Caliquet, who is the professor in charge of the Bachelor's of Applied Science in Business and Organizational Leadership. So he's the founding professor for this. And what's really cool is when I first got involved with Valencia, you only had 3 baccalaureate degrees, and nursing and baseball came next, I think. And now we have what, 7?
I believe so.
7?
8.
8. So you think, wow, 8 baccalaureate degrees. Well, why? Because all the higher educational institutions like UCF and others around don't get the throughput. So everybody came together as aided by brother UCF, big brother UCF, and they said, all right, we need to increase the number of people that are graduating so that the business community can absorb them. So when you look at the different areas, you got technology in there, construction, engineering, and there's a number of things that are coming after this. It is very, very exciting. We have students here that are going to be in competition. I'm going to ask Jared to explain what that is. Where we started was just giving gifts to Valencia College, which to this date amounts to over $125,000 over the last 7 years or so. But last year we decided, thank you. But last year we decided to take a different track. We said, okay, let's have a competition, right? And with the Valencia deans and certain staff members like Jared, we decided to have a competition. So you have a number of people that are going to be here and reporting on what goes on here. So if you want to give direction to your students, please do it.
Yes, thank you so much, Jeff. And thank you everyone for being here and supporting Valencia and being in beautiful Valencia space. We greatly appreciate it. They are going to be taking notes and so forth, but it doesn't sound as ominous as that. It sounds ominous, I know, but they're just going to be learning, just like you are, of the panelist discussion today and investing in what do we need to do to invest in ourselves and our companies for 2030. And so they're going to be taking notes and so forth on the panelists, and then they're going to be working in teams, in pairs. They're going to be putting together a presentation for a later date to present their findings and what they learned, sharing space with you all tonight. And then the teams will be judged on what they learned, how they learned it, how impactful their presentations are, and then at a later date in another event, another CEO Leadership Forum, we're going to come back together and we'll be able to receive a scholarship check from the CEO Leadership Forum. So we're really excited. The students are excited. They're here. They braved the weather. Hopefully you got a chance to talk with them before we got started. If not, please do so at the end. They have a variety of experience. They're all part of the Bachelor's of Business in Organizational Leadership program, the Bachelor's program. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you all again, and get to meet some of those great students.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd also like to recognize the Dean of the School of Business, that is Sonia Casablanca. She's in the back, so raise your hand there, Sonia. And Molly McIntyre, who's the AVP in charge of workforce education and placement. So thank you for coming. So our mission, I kind of shared it. It's to be a resource in the business community. All of the members of our sponsor group are leaders in the business community. We have a footprint of probably close to 5,000 companies in the Central Florida area that are represented by our various organizations. So we are very keen on helping this group of business owners thrive and more than just survive, but to thrive. And the very thing that we're going to be talking about today is probably the most crucial issue that is facing business today, and that is growing their workforce. So our mission here is to try to share some of the best practices and ideas. So the disclaimer is, if somebody just happens to mention something that is not right, we're not taking legal responsibility for it, okay? These are opinions, all right, and it's not reflective of any one organization. So at this point, I'd like to introduce my very, very good friend, Casey Fernandez from Highland, and he is going to be the facilitator and moderator of everything going forward. So Casey, please.
Can you all hear me all right?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
all right, great. Well, my job is to make sure you guys are safe, you have fun, and you enjoy the evening. So first things first, is our company deals with risk. If you need to leave, if for some reason we need to evacuate, please know that both sides are your way out and around the back. In other words, we are the furthest away from safety from anyone. But we saved $20 on the so we're good. We're good. We're very happy about that. Highland is a company I work for and represent. We deal with risk and we help people answer the questions. Why are they buying the insurance they buy, for the amount they're buying, with the terms that they have at the price they pay. Most people don't know the answer to those questions. We help them get there. But tonight, we're talking about workforce, and we have a great group of people to talk about that. We know workforce is changing, right? Whether it's going to be everything changing, whether it's going to be another pandemic, whether it's going to be a recession, or some kind of innovation, something changes. But what we do know is the one constant is we work with and through people. So tonight we're going to be talking about that. We've got 3 people on our panel. We're going to have Danny Jenkins speak for about 20-25 minutes. It's 5 o'clock now, for those of you that want to keep track. So for 20-25 minutes, Danny's going to speak. And then for 35-40 minutes, we're going to have a panel discussion. You're welcome to ask questions. Because we're recording this, please remember, anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of social media. So keep that in mind. But we're looking forward to it. Now, let's go on and introduce our featured speaker. Danny Jenkins is one of the founders and the CEO of ThreatLocker. ThreatLocker is a homegrown company here in Orlando, Florida, that provides cybersecurity services so that you know what is and is not on your computers and servers. They've been acknowledged as one of the fastest 49 growing companies in the country. And I think, Danny, your firm is over 500-600 people now?
Yep.
And you said earlier, you've hired 45 people in the last week. So I think we have somebody that knows something about hiring folks, so please welcome Danny Jenkins.
I was asked to come on talk a little bit about how we grew the business, how we grew the team. And I put these slides together in about 40 minutes before I left. Actually, I spent 10 minutes and my graphics team made them look ready for the next 30 minutes. So it might not flow very smoothly. I'm normally used to talking about technology. But we have one mission as a company, and that is to change the way people think about cybersecurity to stop breaches, from a default allow, which means we're going to trust everything, to a default deny, which means we're going to trust nothing unless we explicitly need it in our environment. And I want to tell you why we did this. Thing died. Okay. Thinking about the history of cyber threats, and I'll go over this very quickly because I don't want to get too technical. we saw malware really in the 2000s take off pretty quickly. When the internet came about, it spread much, much quicker. And we think about viruses like the love bug. Now, I know nobody on this side of the room remembers the love bug virus, and maybe some of the older generation do. Love bug virus was the most notorious virus of all time in computers. And when you open the virus, it would say, I love you, and it would spread to everybody in your contacts. It was an email virus. And that was the headlines. Most notorious virus infects 1/3 of the world's business computers. This was 2000. And it said, I love you. And we've seen over the last 2 decades, viruses get much worse to now where they're actually crippling businesses, stealing, and making insurance companies pay out a lot. So, I think this is broken. Okay, so we go back to then, and I remember there was one particular case. There was an insurance company, actually, or insurance broker in Australia, and I got asked I was an ethical hacker at the time, but to come and help recover from a cyber attack. So someone had encrypted all of their files, their claims, their quotes, or whatever they have, their email, everything, and said, you've got to pay me $22,000 to get your files back. That was pretty small compared to today's standards. So they paid $22,000, and they didn't get their data back. So I got brought in and said, hey, we need your help. We need to recover this data. So I started reverse engineering the malware, trying to decrypt the data, couldn't do it. About a week into the recovery, the owner of the company, so it's a 60-year-old man, calls me up, and he's crying on the phone. And he said, are we going to be able to recover it? And I said, I don't know. Now the guy didn't go out of business, but he thought his business was gone. Everything he'd built for 20-something years was gone because someone had downloaded a piece of software they shouldn't. So he asked me at the end of this, what can I do to stop this happening? I thought I was doing everyone. I got this IT company, they told me to buy an antivirus, they told me to buy this, didn't work. What could I do? And I said, the solution is simple. Just block everything and only allow what you need. That way, when someone downloads a program, it's not going to be able to run. And his IT company told me I was stupid and that was never viable in their situation. Far too difficult. So I said, well, it is too difficult for a company with 50 employees to do this. It's too difficult for the DoD to do this, but they don't have to pay for anything, they just take money from us. But a company with 50 employees, far too difficult. So I'm drawn out this thinking, could we make it easier? And looked at the market size, and the entire worldwide market of this was 500 million, which sounds like a lot of money. But when you think about what does it cost to build something, and what the entire market for whitelisting it was referred to as is, you've got to be able to sell enough. And we're thinking it's going to cost us tens of millions of dollars. We have to own the entire market. This isn't a viable business. This is a stupid idea. So then comes WannaCry, 2017. A few more people remember this. New notorious virus spreads through the world thanks to our very own Edward Snowden releasing the backdoor, traitor. And the whole world got encrypted with this WannaCry ransomware. And at this point, this is when we decided, you know what, this is a really dumb idea, but we need to figure out how we make this default deny approach, zero trust it's called today, it wasn't then, work in businesses of all sizes. Okay, to make it work, we have to change the market size to $10 billion plus, because you want a small part of the market, it's going to be viable. And that's not an easy lift to change the market size. Oh, thank you. So I had one goal. I figured if I can get 2 companies to use a product, so we went off and developed this product, didn't sleep, ran ourselves into massive amounts of debt. I had $150,000 of credit card debt, and I said, if I can make this work, I have to prove 2 things. I have to get a small company to buy my product, and a big company to buy my product. Because if I can get one of each, the whole world can buy my product. So we built this product, and this is what happened. And remember, CrowdStrike, this is what the first week of Threat Locker looked like. The 6 months of Threat Locker. Blue screen, blue screen, blue screen, blue screen. And I'm a really good developer, but I don't know how to write kernel code. Apparently so, because computers just kept crashing. Now, we didn't have any customers at this point. They were just our test machines, but it was a real pain. So CrowdStrike, I understand why they blue screened the world. The process is a different conversation. So this is 2017. I've got blue screen, blue screen, blue screen, one after the other. So I start trying to hire people. Now, I've got very little money and I've got to hire people. Try and hire people in America. Seemingly, people don't train, developers in college don't learn how to write kernel code in America anymore because there's so few jobs in the US. So we went international. I went to India, big mistake. Went to China, big mistake. Eventually, went to Ukraine. And I found a developer who fixed my blue screens. But he had some mental issues, so that didn't work out so well. I shouldn't laugh about it, but he had some sort of trying to kill himself, so that's how bad it was writing this code. I can understand because I was getting lots of blue screens. But then we found another developer in Ukraine, and he fixed it, and he's still with us today. So we eventually get a product stable enough where we can start selling. Now, at this point, I'm really, really, really in debt. So we start calling people. Now, I'm trying to write code, call people, and this company was founded by me, my wife, and my wife's brother-in-law. And we're destroyed at this point. And we're calling people. So I hire a guy on Craigslist. This is how I got the first hire, I think it was Craigslist, for $10 an hour to sit in my house and literally dial companies saying, do you want to try our product? Do you want to try our product? Do you want to try our product? And that's pretty hard. Do you want to install this random security product you've never heard of on your machine? The only people that will try your product are the people that don't know enough about security to know that you shouldn't take a phone call from a random person. But it worked. So that was our first hire. And Craigslist, it seems crazy, but that's the only place where you can hire people for $10 an hour. And that's all we had. And we jump forward to, I think my slides and stuff, to 2018, and we get someone say yes. Now this will scare the crap out of you. Some random defense contractor that builds parts for the Air Force said yes. And they bought our product, and the product was not very good, but they bought it. They gave us $5,000 order. Now that doesn't seem like a lot. At this point, that same week I'd gone to the grocery store and I'd had to buy groceries. I've got 3 kids. I had to buy $80 of groceries on 3 credit cards. So that $5,000 order felt really good that week because I was pretty hungry. So we get our first order, and then we start saying we want to hire another salesperson, so a proper salesperson. So we go off and we start to find a salesperson. And these are a little bit in the wrong order, but I'll figure it out. Anyway, so we hired a sales guy. That's not the guy, and he was really bad. So what I realized at this point, by the way, this guy, on paper, he's perfect. So when you think about hiring salespeople, the guy who is perfect, who can talk really well, who can present, I would literally take this guy into NASA and he would not embarrass me. But also he codes shit. Like nothing. Now we've been making all these calls and we're starting to get this momentum, but nothing's closing. Now we're getting a few small deals here and there, but and everything that is closing by me. So I'm questioning, maybe the product isn't viable. No one's actually going through to the bottom. But we had so many of these, we went and hired another sales guy, which is this guy here, still with us today. And this is probably one of the only people we hired from industry. And we hired him remotely in Tampa, because we couldn't find anyone in Orlando. And suddenly things start closing. So in June 2019, we're getting deals closed, we're increasing our revenue, we're eventually looking like we might not completely end everything. We get a little bit of investment from angel investors, and we're at the stage where I'm doing 16 demos a day for customers. This guy's closing, the other guy's not closing. So at this point, I know it's not me, it's him. So we got it. Because it was that. Now, the new sales guy was like every other sales guy, full of shit, in that he gets on the phone with a customer, and he says to this customer, in Orlando business here, MSP IT company, and the guy's like, how big are you guys? He didn't lie. He said, we're not big at all, less than 100 employees. Which was true, just 97 or 95 less than 100 employees. So this customer says, we want to sign up for ThreatLocker. You met our friend on the plane, and I told him that story now. And he said, but I want to see your offices first. Now, we had rented an office in Regis. So we said, we're like, oh shit, what are we going to do? We need this deal. So we went to Regis and said, can we rent 5 offices for the day? And we got a bunch of friends to come in and sit at the desk. So, by the way, he signed up still a customer today. So we're out beta, things are going well. We're now at $290,000 ARR, which is nothing as a software company, but we've really started to make momentum. We raised $500,000 in capital, because at this point we're showing, we're proving. And when you're an entrepreneur, it's very hard to get capital at the beginning. Very easy at the end, like people are shoving money down your throat, begging, sending you flowers, I'm not exaggerating, to give you money when you're big enough. But at this stage, no one wants to give you money. So you find these crazy angel investors, and angel investors are crazy. Made a lot of money crazy, these guys, and they said, we're going to invest $500,000. But they conditioned that they want to put their guy on as our CFO, which I was very nervous about. So they put this guy here, Ross, who's still the CFO today. And I said, you know what we're going to do? This is the beginning of 2020. We've got a product, it works. Like, we've got one sales guy, and we just got to get humans. We're going to make the whole world know what we do. So we go off to every trade show. You can go to small trade shows around the country. I'm doing 3 trade shows a week, speaking like this, about technology though. And we go to the first trade show, no one wants to talk to us. Like, we're sitting in the corner and it's like nobody, we're like, excuse me, and everyone's just walking past us, no one. So I literally got some envelopes, went home, this is the one in Orlando, went home, got some envelopes, raided my kids' Monopoly box, took all the $2 bills, and put a $2 Monopoly bill in every one of them. I put $200 Monopoly dollars in the final one. And I wrote on them Sharpie, win up to $200, open the Foot Locker. So I'd go round to every guy in the room, and people started coming to our booth. And we did this at every trade show since then for the next 3 years. And literally, we signed one deal that covered the cost of the trade show. And we were doing 3 events a week, and we got this massive momentum. Now we hit April 2020, March 2020, guess what happened? No trade shows. Well, mostly no trade shows. So we're in trouble, but guess what? We got a new sales guy, things are accelerating, and we finished 2020 out with 2.3 million ARR. So we did a really big jump in that year. Now, what's interesting is, I want to show you my first tech position hire. So this is a post, either Indeed or Craigslist, I'm not sure it says, are you looking for a chance to work in technology? Central Florida cybersecurity companies hiring junior tracks with on-the-job training. We had no money stuff. $500,000 was mostly on marketing. And we wages from 10 to 15 an hour. You don't need any experience, but you need to be computer savvy. So if you're a gamer or passionate about computers, apply today. Now, we still have the first person that applied for this job. So someone came in who's probably 25 years old. He'd been in the military. He said, yeah, I want to try this. And we hired a few people on this app. And 2 of them are still with us. Probably of the 4 we hired, there's 2 of them still with us. One of them is our VP of the labs, the biggest department today. He runs the entire department. The other one is one of our senior developers. So we go out and say, we need cheap people. They have to do drug testing. So the first hire we made, big mistake there. So I will say to anyone hiring, do drug testing, I'll say to everyone here, marijuana stays in your system a long time. I don't care what they say, it makes you stupid as well. So don't smoke it. So do drug testing. And we don't care whether you say I got a medical card, not happening. We don't want dumb people at the computer. So we hire these guys to come in and we really start to expand. Now, the problem is at this point, we're in COVID. So COVID, very, very difficult to get things moving. So getting in and out of data centers, you couldn't interview people in person, everything was remote. The guy we hired, his name, the first guy who applied for that job, his name's Brandon Eisenberg. And he never turned on his camera for anyone. He turned it on for the interview because we asked him to. But we grew this support team of remote support people. And he said, everyone was like, oh, Brandon, what do you look like? Because he's like, no, I'm never turning on my camera. So in December 2020, we said we can't do a Christmas party this year, because this is 2020. But people started creating their own Christmas parties, and we decided, look, this is getting everyone's going to end up getting sick, so let's do one but make everyone test before they go to the Christmas party. And he made this joke before the Christmas party, Brandon did. He said, imagine, bear in mind his name's Brandon Eisenberger, that I'm a 5-foot-tall Asian. And everyone just laughed at him and said, well, he's a 5-foot-tall Asian, by the way. When all his co-workers met him, they were very, very shocked when they met him. But you know what's interesting? So we got to 2.3 million, we get into 2021, and something changes in the world. So we're growing our team remotely, and this point here, in June 2021, we demanded everyone get in the office. So this is our new revenue by month. And the reason we did this is because cybersecurity is probably the most urgent thing you can do in the world. And we realized that people aren't training properly. We're hiring people from industry, they don't know what they're doing. There's bugs. You try and call someone, they have to call you back. And it was just becoming chaos. Now there was other things that happened at this time as well that made the revenue go up. But we got everyone in the office and the company just started exploding. Now I felt like I'd been blind for a year. And there's a reason for this, is we do something that no one else does. So when you hire people, now we've gone from 25 people in 2021 to 550, 600 people now. When you hire that many people, you cannot hire experts. It's not possible. You cannot find the right people to do the job. No college degree will teach them. So if you're hiring salespeople and marketing people and tech people, then we do everything opposite. So all of our people have to be trained anyway. All of our support people have to be trained on our product because it's our product. So what we realize is we can't hire a bunch of experienced IT people. We can't hire a bunch of experienced cybersecurity professionals. And when we do, they don't necessarily know what we're trying to achieve anyway. So we set up this pod system when we moved in the office, and we put 4 desks back to back. We still do this in every department. And sometimes they expand over to the next row. And we have one really smart person in those 4 desks. And then we have normally someone that's been here for a while, and then 2 juniors. So when you go into Footlocker support, by the way, our support response average time is 23 seconds, 24 hours a day, right here from Orlando. So if you've got a cyber issue, you've got a question, support, you want to deploy an agent, you've just been hit by ransomware and you're not a customer, you can get us on the phone in 23 seconds. Someone picks up that chat, but the person next to them can educate them while they're talking to the customer. If you're in sales, and you've never sold anything before, and you've got an experienced salesperson there, who's been working for the company for a while, you've got someone half experienced there, and then you've got 2 juniors. And you've got someone junior who's never sold anything, and they're on the phone and they say something really stupid like, no, yeah, Footlocker is an antivirus, which is not, it stops viruses. The manager can hear that instantly and fix it. When you're remote, you can't do that, or she can't do that. So we built this pod system so we could educate. We knew we had to educate people. Today we have 180 salespeople in our organization. Probably out of those 180 of them, 30 to 40 of them were hired as experienced salesperson people. 4 top salespeople in my organization. I've got someone who's only experienced, I hired her at 22 years old, where she worked in an adult toy store. And she now closed some of the biggest deals in the US. She closed a $1 million deal in Brazil. Healthcare, banks, everything. My second worked in a gym, a physical therapist, and a real estate agent. Everyone that we hired who was experienced sits in the middle. Everyone that we hired junior, we were able to train to understand what we're trying to achieve. And that's been really successful. And what's nice about it, we grow these teams. So we start off with 4 people. The 2 juniors become experienced, and then we split the team. And then we have another team. And we just keep doing this over and over and over again. And this allows us to see really good people. The other thing that we found is we've got to be honest with our employees. So when you're hiring employees, don't sell them. Don't tell them this is the best job you're ever going to have. Tell them it's the hardest job they're going to have. And say, if you're hiring for a support job, look, you better show up. If you think this is school and you can come in half an hour late, don't take this job. If you think this is sales and you think you don't have to make calls and get in front of people, don't come for this job. Tell them what you expect. Because then at least, and there's nothing worse than firing someone. I've been, for 7 years in Footlocker now, out of the 550 people, I've probably fired 300 people. It doesn't get easier. Doesn't matter how long you're there, it doesn't get easier. But at least if you've told them up front that this is going to be a hard job, this is hard work, but this is very rewarding, you can make a lot of money, you don't feel guilty when you tell them. You say, look, this is where you need to be. You haven't done this. We said this during the interview. Don't take the job if you don't want it. Half the people you tell that are going to be lazy will just disappear. They won't even take the job. The amount of people that we thought were really good, I remember doing an interview for events once. So I manage 3 events a year in my current company. We do 850 events last year. And I think it was a year ago, so we did 400 last year and we got 4 people. I said, are you going to be able to cope with that? She said, no, I can't work under stress. No, I can't do that. So she left. I didn't have to, the events director was going to offer her a job, and she decided the job wasn't for her, and that's absolutely fine. So when we've been growing, we've been saying, this is what you need to grow the company. Now, another thing we did. Now, our investors don't like this, but one thing you'll notice, or my investors have figured out about me, is I don't give a shit. So, what they like. And we started giving the #1 employee every year a car. So last year we gave this guy 150 grand helmet. I'm ashamed to say I didn't know who he was. Like, he's been working at Footlocker for 18 months and I never knew who he was. And the reason we did this is, when we had 25 people, I knew everyone. So I'd come in the office and, hi Bob, hi Sam, hi Jesse, how's it going, how's your kids, what problems you got? And I am really active as a CEO. I spend 95% of my time on the floor, working on product, working on sales, working on issues. I'll get on a call with the customer, and I want to know as many people. But I've got 550 people. Even if I meet them, I'm probably going to forget who they are by the day afterwards. I have 3 kids, I struggle with their names. So we got, seeing how far we're on time. So what we did is we said we need to find a way of who is our rock stars that we don't know. So we put a vote every month. Every single employee in the company has to vote for the person that helped them the most in the whole company. They're not allowed to vote for their managers because it should be a manager's job to help their staff. But they can vote for anyone else they want unless they're married to a brother or sister, best friends, or college. We exclude all that. They have to also say why. And every month I get to see who is potential next league in the company, who is really progressing well, who do I need to keep more than anyone else. And then when someone comes in and says, I deserve more, I'm better, I should be a manager, and you look and say, we had 450 votes this month, and not a single person said you were a good assistant. That is not leadership material. So we did this, we give away a car every year, and it creates a lot of excitement for our team, but it also allows us to see massive amounts of data, who is important. Because loud people you know who are, hardworking people you don't necessarily know who are. So, today we've gone from 2.3, we're up at, well, $88 million now, and our growth is accelerating. We've got over 50,000 companies that we protect worldwide, and we've got a 95.9% or something like that retention rate. So 95.95% of our customers renew every single year with us. And the way we've been able to achieve that is through really getting our team to work together and constantly fight for the customer. And everyone in Foot Locker knows one thing, that the customer is the most important thing. How do we deliver the most value? How do we stop the most cyber attacks? How do we build a product that's more valuable? And if you can get a team to do that, then you can achieve growth like you can't imagine. And the only way you get a team to do that is by making sure you build the right team, and as a manager, you are so much invested in that team. This shows quickly over the years our company growth. This is last year. This is probably 80-90% of who we are. We had a record month. There's 3 things I want from every employee. They have to care about the mission. What is the mission? The company mission, the department mission. Like, you've got to care about it. If you don't genuinely believe what you're doing as an employee, if you don't believe that we should be answering our customer support in 30 seconds, if you don't believe that when a customer is stressed about their security, you don't need to respond right away and you're in support, if you don't believe that we've got to fix the issue now, then you're probably not a good fit. I always look for this. You've got to have the skills required to do it. So you've got to be smart, or you've got to know the skills from a previous job, and you've got to work hard. Now, I can't hire 550 people that hit 3 of these. I'll take 2. Any 2 you want. Get down to 1, and you're not going to be here very long. But if you can get 2 of these things, you'll build a good team. And then your rock stars, you should know who they are. They're going to be having a great enough. I think, like I said, if you're looking to grow as a person, as a student, we've got a lot of students here, the most important thing you can do when you go into a job is not think about, how many people say to me, how do I become a manager? It's not about becoming a manager. How do I be the most valuable asset to the company? If you're thinking about looking for who your next leadership is, it should be the most valuable assets in the company. And you can't hire, not in Orlando. You can find a lot of people with hotel experience, but you cannot find experience in cybersecurity, in high-tech industries. You don't need experience. You need smart, hardworking people. We have a couple of policies in Foot Locker. One is we never require any kind of college degree. I understand I'm saying this in college, but so we have 0 college degree requirement, 0 high school diploma. Our best solution engineer, we hired at 17 from McDonald's. He closed Heathrow Airport as a customer. He onboarded the entire, now it's been with us 4 years now, onboarded Heathrow Airport, one of the biggest airports in the world, from 0 tech experience because he learned, he listened, he cared. And I think when you're building a team, they're the people you need to find. Where do we consider a college degree? Only to prove they want to work in the industry. So if someone comes to me and says, I really want to work in security, how do I tell if they want to work in security? Did they go to college for security? Is one way. Have they worked in security? Have they got a home lab? Do they know what an IP address is? Like, these are things that we look for, and that's the same in every area we look for. So, I appreciate everyone's time. I know I've gone over, so I'll hand back over. Thank you.
Danny, thank you so much. That was fascinating. I love the specifics of God forbid someone is transparent and says, this is gonna be a hard job. You'll love it, but you're gonna work hard. I love setting the expectations. All right, we're gonna have the panel discussion. You get 30 seconds to sit down, then we'll have you back up.
Okay.
But the beautiful part about this, we have a trio of people. Danny, who certainly has onboarded many, many employees and has that experience. We also have Marcy LaRoche. Marcy, if you come up, you have a seat. Marcy's with, she's the CEO of C Management. It's a fractional HR service company, which is also born and bred here in Orlando and has over 60, the company, not Marcy, has over 60 years experience in existence in helping businesses not only in Florida, but around the country. So she's used to helping to onboard, manage, and exit people. And we also have Seth Bobit, and Seth is a partner with Integrated Financial Staffing. Seth works primarily with helping to recruit financial services people, particularly CPAs. That's his specialty. And Seth and I have known each other both professionally and personally for over 30 years, but all I would ask the audience is please don't hold that against him. Okay? So thank you. So please, if you come on up, Danny and Joy, and we're open now for questions that you have giving Danny's experience and also for C Management and Integrated Financial Staffing. Who would like to go first? Because I have one. Frank, go ahead.
So, great presentation. Awesome. I took a bunch of notes. Work hard. How do you measure that? How do you tell your managers, what do you look for? What do you transmit to everybody to make sure this metric is working?
So this is the most difficult one, actually, because I think it depends on the role. So if you're a salesperson, in Threatlocker, you can go to a trade show. And like I said, we do 850 trade shows. You're probably up at 7 in the morning. And if you're the best salespeople, you're still there at 2 a.m. in the morning. So you're off the scale there when it comes to working hard with the customers. Sometimes we base this on when are you coming in, when are you going out, what are you doing when you're there, are you sitting at your desk, are you going around talking to people? There's no certain management. Some is the speed you perform the job you're doing. Are you constantly at it, or are you just chit-chatting? It's hard to measure, but generally you know an employee is working hard, and a manager should definitely know if they're working hard and they're putting in the effort. It's easy if they're still there at 9 p.m.
So, but time and being in the office is a big factor.
But time and what they're doing once in the office. So there's people who come in the office for 12 hours a day and they just scroll around talking to people and don't actually achieve anything. But probably the two biggest is how many hours are you putting in and what you're doing when you're there.
Great.
I'll take a point from something you shared, Danny, and ask both Marcy and Seth. When you see companies, what is the space between companies that are very candid, honest, and say, here's what's required, versus the companies that don't, and what happens when employees start? Marcy?
Nope. Yep. Okay. I couldn't agree more with that. I mean, that was something that really struck a chord with me as well while Danny was talking. It is absolutely a big difference. And from my experience, I previously was CEO of a company that had 50 employees. I was very upfront about our environment, what you were getting into, and it just created a much more of that transparency creates a much better outcome. Because we all have different cultures in our organizations, and as you start to build your own organizations as students, right? Be real about that, what that is. Is it a work hard environment? Are there certain things you have to meet? Do you have to care desperately about the clients like we do at our business, right? And what does that take in order to accomplish that? Is it you're going to be traveling a ton? You're just be really upfront about it. Don't hide behind and try and create core values that sound really pretty, and you've got this great branding about your employee experience. If that's all BS, you're just gonna spend a lot of time and money wasted on the wrong people joining your organization, and then fairly quickly leaving after you've invested time and energy into them. And so, absolutely, there's a big difference, and we would always, give guidance to our clients from what you have on the website, your job description, the conversation you're having during the interview process. Like, be upfront about what this job really is, what's really being expected of you, and what your culture really is. And if you can't answer those things, right, then maybe it's time to take a pause on hiring and maybe rethink that before you're bringing in a bunch of people and then having them, have that retention rate be very, very low for your employees there.
Seth, anything to add?
Not that much. What I did really, is this on?
Yep.
What I did really like is that Triumph. I've been I'm a little older than you guys. So for years I've been running large sales organizations, and I've always been looking for the silver bullet. You know, why do you fail more than you succeed? And it comes down to core values. It comes down to what you cook. I really like that Triumph. Could I have that slide?
Yeah.
It's, if you could do 2.5 of these, you're really in.
And I do think it's being realistic about the 2 out of 3 now, right? As you grow, it's going to be harder and harder to find people that meet every single one of your requirements, in this case, like from a culture standpoint. And so what are the ones that you're willing to give up a little bit on, right? And if it's 2 out of the 3, 2.5 out of 3, but you're right, you get to 1 out of 3 and it's not gonna be a good fit. But it's, again, identifying for your
Well,
organization what it is.
and the firing got me too. That's the hardest part of any manager's job, is because most managers, if they got to manage, probably like people. So if you fire them, they fire themselves. It takes a lot of your job, it makes your job a lot more pleasant.
Yeah, the other thing I will say for those who are looking at the triangle too, most people who aren't very good at the skills, aren't very good at the smartness, think they are. So if you think, oh, I'm smart and I work hard, you may be wrong. So don't overestimate your ability and your smartness.
Well, and you can also turn around on your hiring managers and say, almost like a test of what scale from 1 to 10, where do they come up? When you hire somebody, you can keep the file. What I found is it's always funny to look back at the files. Years ago, I think Casey and Ken Bryant were the ones who got me to PIs, predictive indexes. And it's amazing how when you look back on them, and that's what the triangle actually is, you look back on it and you say, oh, that's why that person failed, that's why that person succeeded. It's uncanny how it can guide you to either helping the person or getting them out quicker.
I think it's also not about just them failing or succeeding, because somebody said to me recently, we have a sales guy, he works incredibly hard, and he really, really cares about what our mission is, what we're doing, he's very passionate about it, and he's selling X, just say $20,000 a month. And we had another sales guy who was lazy, who really didn't care about us, but was selling 30 grand a month, and we let him go. And someone asked me, why did you let him go over the other one? I said, because he's a lazy shit, and that stuff is contagious. Like, that is incredibly contagious. He has the skills, but he doesn't care what we do, he doesn't believe in what we do, he doesn't believe in our product, he's just a smooth talking sales guy, and he's lazy, and that's really contagious. If you have bad culture of bad people, they can drag down a whole department.
I was snooping in on an interview today that I shouldn't have been snooping in on, because you can do that on Zoom now. And one thing that came up was a lazy person, someone who's not a good employee or a lazy person will bring down your staff a lot quicker than a good person will bring up your staff.
That's a great point. The shameless plug, there's about 200 people in my company out of 1,100 that do what I do. And in the last year, we fired 2 out of the top 10 producers. Why? They were jerks. They were jerks to the staff. They were jerks to clients. They brought in business, but they were jerks. And we value our culture, to your point, Danny, more than some extra dollars at the end of the line. Because at the end of the line, the culture is going to determine everything.
Well, it'll come around on the back end.
Right. Seth, I'm curious, what trends are you seeing? You know, we've been around a couple decades. What trends are you seeing now? Ouch! As a seasoned professional, tell us what trends you're seeing now for the coming workforce of 2030.
Give me like more specific as far as I'm truly always optimistic to a fault sometimes. So I always think tomorrow's gonna be better. You know, I did say inside the accounting industry is that I'm seeing more talented professionals looking for positions than I've seen in a few years. Don't know if that's bad or good. I just think it's a,
Well, one thing I've heard, both in the accounting and also in the risk and insurance business, is people say, we have partners and we have people that are high level that are good, and we can find tons of new people. But what we're missing are people in the middle. The people that are, they're great accountants, they work hard, they're not yet to the point where they can be partners and so on. But they get the job done, they make the trains run on time, they do good work. And we're missing that. And I know in the insurance world, you talk about account managers who are essentially service people, and they fulfill all the promises I make, right? So I tell the client, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this. And hopefully I'm straightforward with them and candid, and then they get to come in and do all those things. And that's an area we're missing a lot in our industry. Does any of you see that?
I see it in accounting especially, and I think I've sat in on some FICPA panels, and the rumor is they got to do something. Either they got to make the CPA test easier. They're trying to. I hope they're not trying to lower the bar, but they're trying to say, okay, how can we get, and I guess every industry, IT probably leads the way all the time. But where's the training? Why do students want to come into this business? If the rumor around the FICPA was that you have the same talented kids becoming engineers, doctors, accountants are paying the least. It's hard to get the test. So the upper management of that is taking it seriously. Otherwise, they're gonna have a harder time retiring. So does that answer the question? Or?
Yeah. Marcy, did you have something to add?
I'll add just an overall trends that we're seeing, which again, Danny's on the forefront of, is more of a skills-based hire. Getting rid of, having the exact, 10 years of insurance sales experience, or, they've been a customer service agent in your particular industry, right? Or a particular education requirement that might not be quite relevant to a more general type role that you're hiring for. And really leaning more towards, what are these transferable soft skills that this individual has? So you have to be able to figure out how to identify that and make sure you're clear on that. And then, what are the, components that would be transferable, right? So if they sold into a different type of industry, but it's a simple kind of a similar sales cycle, or it's selling into the similar type of profile within an organization, like, can they come into your organization? Now, I think it's really important if we're going to go in this direction, which I think we're going to have to overall across all different industries. You have to back that up with an actual training program to teach them how to work in your industry, in your business. Because if you hire a really great, talented, up-and-coming person with a ton of potential, they've got the ambition, they've got the smarts, but then you don't give them the pod or the training program or the mentor that is being held responsible for making sure that they get the skills in your industry to be successful, that will fail. So it's got to be a combination of things, but I definitely am seeing more and more employers releasing on some of these, hard set requirements. Now, certainly, I want my neurosurgeon to have experience in this area, right? So I'm not saying this across the board is applicable, but many professional service areas, many blue, gray collar industries, we can open those up and think a little bit more broadly, but we have to back that up with the training in our industry or specifically in our organization to help them be successful in that.
Yeah, it's sounding to me, and we're open to questions from the audience, so this is not the four of us show. You're welcome to ask the questions.
I have a question for Danny. Danny,
Yes.
first of all, congratulations on your growth.
You're next.
Second thing is, in the insurance business, cyber liability, as you know, is huge. But when you drive your car and you're monitoring, you're checking, you're getting discounts. Are you working with the insurance companies now based upon the cyber liability, being proactive and mitigating that risk to get discounts for those companies?
I want to say we're working with them with no success. I think insurance companies working with, we've got actually some health insurance companies as customers as well, and after they decide to buy, it takes a year to get through their legal process. And insurance companies in this way is the same thing. Most cyber insurance companies right now, not all, are underwriting at huge levels that they just literally say, this is a list of things you can't do, and I'm not going to focus on what you should do to reduce your risk. As you get to bigger policies, if you want to get $1 million cyber policy, no one's asking any questions other than, do you have RDP open to the internet or something really basic? If you want a $20 million liability policy, then they start asking more questions about what profiles you have. We've been very actively pursuing insurance companies because it benefits us if they start saying things like you should block by default. But most insurance companies are actually very difficult to get them to make changes to their own underwriting procedure.
That's why I was asking, because you mentioned earlier, proactive versus reactive.
Oh, it's common sense.
And you're doing both.
Yeah, we're doing both, and it is very common sense, but insurance companies, I want to say we've made, the best progress we've made is get on forms, do you use an application allow listing solution? That's the best progress we've made.
I'm sorry, do you use an application?
Allow listing, which basically means do you allow applications by default rather than denying so do you deny by default and allow by exception? So allow listing means you're blocking everything except what they need, which means you're blocking malware.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Great point. Frank?
There are certain positions, maybe all of you can answer this, that are easier to hire because those individuals are more visible. Sales positions, some are here, they attend things, and maybe they're your competitor. You see them out there competing against you. But other support roles, which is the one we have a little bit more challenges with in the lending world, is loan assistant, loan closer, those more technical that you don't see. Are you using certain, systems, something to identify those resumes, find them? How do you find these people that may not be applying?
I would
And
say
how do you
use
figure that out? Huh?
I would say use a good recruiter. No.
Well, what do the
Well, there's
recruiters do?
not, all joking aside, it's difficult. It's difficult enough to hire. And one of the things over this last 4 or 5 years, I found I found people much more accepting to recruiters than they've ever been before.
Sure.
And I came up with my sales approach, and you can still listen to mine, I'm sure you use it. Because if you hire by yourself, you got about a 2% chance in this market to be successful. If you use a recruiter, I can up it to 4%. So, it's hard. I wish I had, so again, I'm looking for the silver bullet for the answer. I guess the answer is you take every avenue. You don't underturn, you don't try to do so, you're not going to do your taxes yourself. And then you're talking about your most important commodity is your people. What are you doing to help it? And once you get them, most importantly, train them, and keeping the good ones. And setting the hiring standards of, who you're hiring, why you're hiring them, and being transparent about what they have to do. So I guess the only answer to your question is unturn every single rock. Half the times I make a sales call, I always get, well, we don't want to pay recruiters here. And then I say, well, it's a lot more, you got half a chance of being successful. When you're not successful, the cost of turning over that employee is, if you did the analysis over the last 20 years, it's ridiculously crazy.
I want to add on to that. I think, and it depends on the industry. We're in the tech industry. So the tech industry is very competitive, or very well paid salespeople on the OTE, low paid on base. So typically a tech salesperson will get somewhere between a 50 and 60K base, but their OTE, their actual take home for their rock stars could be $400,000 to $600,000. Every time we've hired from industry, and the only time I pointed that one guy, we hired him, he was an SDR and we made him a salesperson, so that was an exception. But every time we've hired from industry, you cannot get the good salespeople. And here's what happens. When you hire, if I just go up to a random person in the street, and we do this, I hired someone from a bar, and you go to, actually, my CRO I hired from a bar. So if you go up to a random person, and we hired him as a salesperson in the street, or you go into a bar, you go into a restaurant, and you see a waitress or a bar attendant, good communication skills, polite, presentable, and you say to them, do you want to work in cyber sales? And this is technology typically. There's a 50% chance they're going to fail. So there's a 50% chance they're going to succeed. If I go and hire from someone in industry, if I go up to CrowdStrike or SentinelOne, these guys have been selling cyber for a long time. If I can convince them to leave, there's an 80% chance they're going to fail. And there's a reason for that. Because my best salespeople aren't leaving ThreatLocker because they're making a crap load of money. Which means I'm only going to get the bad ones because the good ones aren't leaving their job because they would be insane. And what am I going to do? Say, okay, how much are you earn at CrowdStrike? Oh, I earn 600K because I'm their rock star. Even if I say to them, well, I'll give you a 600K base, which would be ridiculous, they're going to say, well, if I don't sell, I know he's going to fire me. Can I sell his product? So I don't think you can hire good salespeople, definitely in the tech industry, from competitors, because you're only going to get the worst. Better off going into a bar and asking the bartenders it.
I've gotten hit over the head so hard. You see a home run, in our industry, they should have the best training, and I think it's less than 80% fail.
Yeah.
Because if they were good, they'd be doing fine.
Of
And
course.
it took me a lot of years.
We have a question from this young lady.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Chelsea. I'm in the bachelor's program here at Valencia, and I'm also a cybersecurity engineer for Siemens Energy. And my question was related to interviews. It was if you were to offer someone a position for your company, and they were to accept it, obviously, and in 1 year they were the best hire that you ever had, what would they have accomplished for your company?
So you said in interviews,
Yeah. So my question is related to interviews. If you were to if you were to offer a position to someone for your company, and in 1 year they were the best hire that you ever had, what would they have accomplished for your team or for your company? The best hire. What are some qualities that they?
So are you talking about in a cybersecurity engineer specifically?
Just in general.
Just
What is,
in
what
general.
does success look like?
The triangle.
Those three things. I mean, that's.
Care about the
You
mission,
could
has
fit-
the skill set required,
Work
works
hard.
hard. That's
Yeah.
it?
You could fit
Okay.
anything you want about the job in those, you could put them somewhere in those categories, because at the end of the day, if you do those three things, we know you're smart enough to learn. We know you can't teach hard work ethics. You can't teach.
Those are optional. I don't mean they're optional. That's your choice. Like as an employee, you get to choose if you're going to work hard. You get to choose if you care about what we do. You don't get to choose all the time if you're smart enough to do the job. That's sometimes outside of your control.
Right, but in my years of experience, if you can do those two things, you're smart enough to do those two things. You should be smart enough to learn and I found it's a triangle.
There is raw talent though. Some people just genuinely have raw talent, and I try and hunt it down. We hired Roy's son. He's got raw talent. He's what, 21 now, 22? 21, and we hired him before he graduated high school because he took a day off to graduate high school. And he's got raw talent, and he works hard, and he checks the other side of the triangle too. But I think some people are just naturally gifted. I would say one thing that helps towards your raw talent is not try and figure out how you can improve yourself or improve your career, but figure out how you can improve the business you're in, the customer's experience. That should always be your focus. And that's the focus if you're an entrepreneur as well. If you go in saying, how do I make more money? You'll fail as an entrepreneur. If you go in and say, how do I build the best solution in the world to solve the problem better than anyone else, you'll succeed. The same as employees.
That's a great point, because I went in one time to my boss and I said, I'd like to get paid what I'm worth, and he said, I'm sorry, there is a minimum wage law in this country. But we did have another question over here from this young man.
I have a question for Mr. Danny. I don't know if ThreatLocker uses AI, but if it does, how does it affect your talent recruitment, especially the technical side? And
Okay, the question was, ThreatLocker uses AI?
if it does,
If it does, and how does that,
affect the talent recruitment?
the recruitment?
So do we use AI in recruitment? We
No,
use AI
no.
to create jobs.
If you use AI, does it like before you used to like recruit like 100 software engineers, but now do you recruit less? How does it affect?
So I think the problem is we're always understaffed by 50% because we're always hiring too fast. So I don't think it changes our hire. Do we use AI in our day-to-day business? So we use AI. Our products, by the modern definition of AI, or the modern, what people think AI is, which is ChatGPT, it's not AI driven. Do we use machine learning in our products, and do we learn from other customer data? Absolutely. We use AI in tasks in the company which have strong policies around it. We don't use it for creating IP, but we do use it for research quite heavily, and we use it for writing job offers. If you don't use AI, you're probably, to do something in your day-to-day, you're probably not being very efficient. Will it reduce the number of employees? I don't know is the answer. I think ultimately any tool that saves time should reduce the number of employees, but they said that about computers and machines, and yet jobs have still gone up for the last 50 years.
Yeah. I have a question about, you brought, in 2021, you brought all these people in-house, and your revenue spiked, because you said you were able to train right there in the pods. You even set up a system so that people could hear other people talk and what mistakes they made and this and that. Do you know of anyone successfully training people virtually, and in the tech world, or Marcy maybe somewhere else?
We did it virtually. It can be successful, but it's harder because what is a simple question now becomes a call in the schedule. You can't be on 10 people's calls at once. If you think, I've got 46 solution engineers that onboard customers all day long, and they're all sitting in the same room. And if you are a manager of a solution engineer and you are remote, you will periodically join your engineers' calls to see what they do right and wrong. But they might do 5 calls right and then say one thing wrong. If you're sitting in a room with 8 people, you hear that wrong thing. It rings down, it like grinds like chalk on a board or nails on a chalkboard. So it allows you to be far more efficient. You can do it remotely, and absolutely, people do all the time. I think if you're trying to grow from 25 to 550 staff, you have no chance. If you're growing 20% year over year, I think it's very viable.
Okay. Brandon.
Dan, this is for you. First off, I want to say I love your story of growth, and thanks for sharing that with us. It hit home on a lot of things for my company that I kind of felt the growing pains as well. But I wanted to ask you about continual education, because I think we've all seen that we've hired what we thought was going to be a rock star, and you mentioned that a couple times on how they just didn't perform the way you thought. And then we've got duds, diamonds in the rough. Continual education, how much do you emphasize that once you get them on board to keep them kind of up to par? And how much do you value outside consultants to kind of keep an outside perspective on what you guys are doing to keep the growth where you want it to be?
Okay, so obviously, and a lot of this depends on the size of your company. We rely very little on the outside. And the reason being is no one will ever do as good a job as you will do inside. But if you don't have a big team, sometimes it's better to be halfway there outside than all the way and not there at all because you don't have a team. So we don't rely on outside at all. And some of this stuff will almost make me laugh. And this is one of the things you don't think about. I always say if I ever get out of ThreatLocker, I'm going to write a book, and it's going to be called The Shit You Wouldn't Believe. and we have actually ThreatLocker University inside, and we continue. Now, what we focus on continuous education is obviously new products, new things we're doing, new changes to the industry, new threats. We're constantly pushing those. We do it on webinars internally. We have it published so we can make sure people do things. Get big enough, I'm not lying. It's how to put dishes in the dishwasher and how to clean up after yourself in the bathroom, because that stuff happens. When you get to 500 employees, there's not a single day that goes by where someone didn't do something that's just, do you not? Like, people put the cups this way in the dishwasher with the... Learn this, please. They're all young people, I can promise you that.
So, the 17-year-olds. Like.
And yes, and people laugh about, why did we get a course that says how to load the dishwasher, or that please don't put paper plates in the dishwasher? So we have a whole ThreatLocker University. We publish everything you can imagine, from stupid stuff that we shouldn't, right to the most important security stuff. And we also pay for Udemy for all of our staff. We encourage them. We pay for exams. We give pay rises on certain exams being taken as well. So things like if you do a Network Plus, we're going to give you a pay rise on that, and that helps keep people's wages going up as well.
You say like a weekly or a monthly, though, that you guys have something that's a steady, consistent,
Oh, I'd say this training goes out every day, but we're fine. It depends. It doesn't go out to everybody. It could. I mean, bear in mind, we've got serious, like some of it's policy and procedure training. So we've got 157 salespeople or something. They're on the road all the time. There's 850 events. We've got bar tabs. We've got training there. There's training around not getting drunk. There's training around dress code. There's training around what you're allowed to wear at a trade show. I'm definitely getting dress coded today if someone reports me or an event. But every day there's something going out, but not to every employee. It goes out to the department that's relevant to them. There's whole company messaging, so that goes out to everyone. Because I think it's really important that the entire company knows what we do and why we do it. And I don't care if you're the janitor, the security guard. If you don't know what we do and why we do it, you shouldn't be here. And then there's things that go out that are specific. Like no one in support needs to know how to build a quote in sales.
All right, we're up close to 6 o'clock. Do we have a final question? Yes.
It was more of a comment. You guys were talking about the triangle, and I applaud you for defining. Those are really the habits that reinforce the core values plus the habits is the culture. And so those are really the habits you're looking for. Is that correct? Like, I listen to what you're saying. It's really the habits you want out of your employees in order for them to be successful.
I don't know.
It almost, it could influence their habits and how they actually act on a day-to-day basis. I think that if they're, if work hard, like, I'm not sure work hard is actually a habit, but it might encourage a salesperson to create, their call list and how many calls they're gonna make during the day, right? Like that could manifest itself in that way, from that perspective. But I think, a lot of people who are very successful utilize habits in a way that's going to, supplement what, the success that they're having there, for sure.
And if you want, you could fill in the triangle with all the extras. So
Examples.
We can have the habits on the side.
But I think, like, for example, if you care about the company, if you care about our image, if you care about our thing, it comes across in everything. It's more the core of that, but it'll come across if you see a build going out. We're a software company, so when we put a build out that's got a lowercase p instead of an uppercase P, if you care, you're going to say, no, this isn't right, let's fix this. If you don't care, well, it passed the QA test, I'm going to push it out. And I think, so the habits become part of each section, but it's really about where do you start with?
I thought we had one more student that had a question.
Okay, let's finish on a high note.
My question was on something.
And please forgive me, while you're thinking of your question, I did not ask my faux pas. Seth, Marcy, Danny, we end at 6:30, but this will be the last question. Understanding you have other commitments and so on, are you able to stay? No judgment. If you can't, do you have to split at 6? Okay, so
I got a little bit of time, so.
Okay, great. So we'll have some time for folks to chat afterwards. Your question, please.
My question was something that Marcy touched on, that was that companies are looking more for those soft skills, and my question was just, how do you, during the recruitment process, dig that out from people? Because we all know it's easy to sometimes lie or exaggerate during interviews. So how do you ensure that the people that are recruiting for your company really know how to pull that information from people so that you don't have to keep having to hire the wrong people and then go back and forth?
So in my experience, I've been interviewed, I've interviewed a lot of people, right? And I think, when I'm talking with a candidate, I am going to really be asking not hypothetical questions, because it's so easy for us to say, like, if you came in here, how would you change the HR department as HR director, whatever, right? Like, I want to know concrete examples of how you've demonstrated that skill. And that might not be, and let's just use this HR for example, that might not be the onboarded 150 employees successfully in HR. That might be that, you were a cashier at Publix and you were rated Employee of the Month 6 times, right? Like, how have you demonstrated the skill, the soft skill that you're trying to, hire for this role? Use it.
To add on to that, and this could, people always ask, I've done a lot of helping people enter. And when someone's hiring somebody from our company, I always warn everybody, don't hire the best interviewer. So you've got to break that down, and you can use this while you're interviewing people. Be transparent, be honest. If you don't know an answer, don't try to come up with it. Say, tell them how you know you think you can get the answer. You know, I went through this today, and I try to train the people that are interviewing to say, do not hire the best interviewer. You know, I had a friend who was going in for an interview. She was a terrible interview, but a great person, great controller, great at whatever she did. And she goes, well, why don't you go into the interview for me? You don't know anything about it, but you'll interview better than I will. And I just be transparent, be yourself. And that's, so you can't, and hope the other person knows not to hire the best interviewer. Yeah, I haven't had someone, you know, I try to say it as a recruiter, but it's a good, when you get to the point when you're hiring people, it's a good thing to remember is if someone, you gotta dig deeper.
And for the love of God, don't use one of those tools where they ask the question and it's telling you ChatGPT how to answer it in the moment. Like, it is so easy to tell when that is happening right now. Like, maybe it'll improve over the next few years, but right now it's great to prepare, get ready. Like, what are some sample interview questions I might have in these situations? How can I articulate my resume in a clear, prepare, use all that for that. But for the love of God, in the moment in the interview, because we're gonna get you in person, we're gonna catch it. Like, I did a role recently where I had 3 people answer the questions the exact same way, and I mean almost word for word, and it was like, you're out. Like, and you might have been perfectly qualified and able to really actually do this job. We're gonna see right through it. So
transparency and.
transparency on both sides, both
Yeah.
from the candidate as well as from the employer.
Great. Seth, Marcy, thank you so much.
Thank
Danny
you.
had to
Thank you.
run. We got a half hour. If you'd like to connect with somebody, please feel free. Allie, you